Anything you do in life repeatedly, you're going to naturally be better at. You know, my man Tyler, what's up, T? Just joined, and T and I know each other because of his brother and because of golf. But golf is no different than anything else. This is why I'm discussing hobby v money today. Life is a muscle memory game. We do things out of habit, routine, sometimes mindlessly. We don't even know we're doing it, whatever it may be. When that guy said that to me, don't make auditions an event. That doesn't mean that they're not important, and it certainly doesn't mean that you don't spend the time prepping for them. But I swear to God, back in the day, I used to know people who would find out, and again, this is back in the day when we would sometimes get 2 days notice for a commercial audition. We can't even fathom that in today's world. But you'd sometimes get 48 hours notice for a commercial audition. You sometimes would get 4 or 5 days notice for a co-star audition. And in those 4 or 5 days, or in those 24 hours, or even today if it's less than 24 hours, I used to know people, no shit, who would say to me, "Oh no, I can't have lunch tomorrow." And my man Double D's in the house. And I would look at them and go, why can't you have lunch tomorrow? Well, because I have an audition on Thursday. We were going to have lunch on Wednesday. So this is the point, Sheeta, of why I say become an audition machine. Because it's not, first of all the processes that we do in our own way to use our craft, Double in the house, that's Double D, everybody, man, the myth, the legend. If you watch Next Level Chef, he's the man. Former TAN member, lifetime TAN member. If you make auditions an event, it used to shut people down for 1 and 2 days. It's like, it's important, and you have your process, and you have the things you're supposed to do. Absolutely. But the reality is that you can't make it a lifetime event. It has to be something that in any sport or any profession or for a musician becomes normal. Your process for doing it is normal. And that's the biggest important part about that. Total sidebar in today's conversation, guys. I'm just going off something Sheeta said a few minutes ago. And yeah, auditioning is the job. But what you want to do is you want to have your process down for being a really good actor for auditions. But if you turn it psychologically, when you get one into, oh my God, people, it's New Year's Eve, it's Christmas Day, it's my wedding day. It's like, no, it's not. Because you're liable to work yourself up into such a frenzy that you're not nearly as connected and organic at the moment as we need to be to book work. So set that aside. It's 9:04. It's time for me to start on today's subject. But Sheeta, yes, I did say that the other day, be an audition machine. Just so, because my thing is, I'd like you to have so many auditions going that whether it's for an ultra low budget film or for a low budget film or for some short agreement or 7 lines on a TV show, that you're just going and that TV show doesn't stand out versus the other things. That's the goal. Okay, so today, guys, hobby v money. Now, I got to bring this up because last night, and this is funny, now I already had this plan. Just like on Monday, I can tell you right now, on Monday I'm going to be talking about switching representatives, leaving your representative, moving on to another one. That's what Monday is going to be. So I already had today worked out. And I wound up last night in a conversation with a buddy of mine. Look at Jen Death Row in the house. What up, girl? Hope you're okay. Good to see you. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine from college, and we've known each other from way back in the day. And he has gone on and had a very successful, long-time career in a particular profession, right? In a profession, white-collar profession. And we got into this conversation about me doing these IG lives and the profession of acting. And one of the words he used, and again, it's his profession, he used the word nuggets. You know, brother, you talk about on these IG lives, and there's a lot of philosophy and a lot of psychology, and he has a master's in psychology. He said nuggets. Now, in the vein of nuggets, what he was talking about was he was talking about tangible to-dos. Like as a corporate speaker, they always ask you, what are going to be your methodologies, and what are you going to leave people with as a takeaway, right? It's a common phrase. It's a common phrase in business. Everybody has them. And we have them too. But this is the funny part about this profession and about the conversation of hobby versus money. What's up, Woodman? Boom. We all know in life, I told you all the time, the business of show business is life in a lot of ways, except for the fact, and we all know it, 50% of this profession at least is philosophical and psychological and not tangible. And it is frustrating. And for people who don't do this for a living, it's hard to understand how to have control or where's the job security. And we all know this. So I wanted to bring this up because back in college, I was a golfer, wanted to be a professional. Ironically, my buddy I was chatting with last night was a college level tennis player, and he didn't become a professional because all of us know in life, very much in the fact that my man Woodman is here, who was our caddy in Bandon Dunes, we chatted about this. In the difference between treating something as a hobby versus a profession, it's completely easy when you talk about sports or playing guitar, but we all know that that tends to equal how much time you dedicate to something. And back in the day, yes, I'm still a by definition, I'm a single digit handicapped golfer. I'm in the top 1% in the world of golfers. But relative to a professional, I completely suck. So it may be a serious hobby for me, but it's still a hobby. I'm not getting paid for it. I'm not making money at it. But when we try to extrapolate that out to this profession, we all know, you guys, and this is the hard part, this is not a time and money out business. And this is my point about this. You could be in class because show business, right? What we want for nuggets, what we want for tangibility in this profession is to do what everyone told us to do. And that is take this very seriously in terms of your craft. Yes, but think about this. You could put 10 hours a time of class into, let's say, a straight acting class and maybe an improv class, right? And you put 10 hours in every week. And you put 30 hours in on the pursuit of the business, whether you were doing submissions, marketing, going to events, volunteering at film festivals. We can all add up the time. And let's pretend you put 40 hours in. Okay, you put 40 hours in. You don't get a paycheck for 40 hours. And so this is part of the challenge when you're chatting with someone who has lived a profession and had a successful life and knows actors, because everybody knows actors, about what are nuggets, what are tangible things in this profession that we can get down with in terms of, hey, Cassandra, hobby versus money, because this is what we tend to do. We take this seriously and we're told when we're young, which is true, hey, this is what you do. You go to class, you get really good, and then somewhere along the way you find a representative and they're going to fall in love with how good you are, and they're going to do a great job representing you, and they're going to send you out on job interviews that we call auditions, and you're going to be so fabulous because you took class very seriously that everyone's going to love you and you're going to start booking jobs and one day you'll be a star. Or at least make a ton of money. Now, what I just said, I know that everybody in this room right now and anybody probably who watches this understands what I just said, except for the fact of this. Globally, for hundreds of years, that mantra in a lot of ways hasn't changed. It certainly hasn't changed in the last 50 years related to entertainment in this world. And yet, why is it that so few people still make money at this profession? Hobby versus money. And the reason for that is because so much of this profession isn't tangible. Job security is a different conversation. This is trying to make money at art, which is very difficult. It's not a job, and we know that. We 100% know that, because what I just described is the process. And that's what most of us do. And when we get frustrated, so that we don't feel like we're just treating it like a hobby. I mean, I play golf once a week at best. I live right next to a driving range and I don't practice. Just ask Woodman, he knows. My short game, dicey. So, and yet I still like to be good, but I don't work at it. So actors work at the craft of this all the time. And we've been told foundationally, psychologically, that's all you're supposed to do, man. You just have to be good. And I'm not debating that that has not worked for 0.001% of the people in this profession. But I like to reference John Malkovich, right? Way back in the day. John Malkovich was out here doing a show. This is an article I read years ago, and I happen to be a Malkovich fan. I think he's a pretty talented guy. And he made a comment in this article, and he said, that sitting somewhere in an acting class, there's somebody who's 10 times better than me. Now, I don't know that I'd go along with the 10 times better, but I will go along with sitting someplace in an acting class in the world. There's somebody as talented as John Malkovich you nor I will ever know about. Why is that? What is that about? Okay, so going forward along in life, as I began to continue to speak and build the Actors Network, I used to use this analogy for hobby versus money. And that was the following, because I'm from the South, everybody knows it, so I do a lot of housing, construction, car analogies and metaphors. And I said, okay, we are a vehicle. That's what we are. This is literally a vehicle to doing craft as an actor. That's what this is. So what if you were to design the greatest car ever known to mankind in your back garage in the backyard of your house? And it was the greatest car ever. But it was sitting in the garage. It didn't have any gas, and no one knew it existed. It's not the greatest car, because nobody knows it's here. So this is my thing about hobby versus money in this profession, and it drives us nuts. We want to do, and I have long since mentioned, and there's been plenty of stuff in books about the basic to-dos of an actor. But that's not what I cover. I cover the inside of the inside of the inside of those to-dos. But if that car never has gas in it, and you don't ever drive it out on the street, no one's ever going to know that that product is available or exists. Now, I applaud and want every single person who's ever heard me speak to go do all of the normal steps that we are supposed to do. Go back to my first IG Live. Setup versus pursuit. Yes, you have to get pictures. Yes, you have to go to class. You have to be proficient with the show. It's not an argument, okay? You have to do other things that are steps. Have an individual website, have an IMDb account, have an IMDb Pro account. These are all things that are to-dos. Have pictures, keep them current. Be an electronic interface. These are all things that are to-dos. So the challenge becomes, when I was chatting with my friend last night who was a collegiate level tennis player, and I was a collegiate level golfer, and neither one of us went on to be professionals. Let me be clear. We know the difference between something that's a hobby. Now, I chose golf over tennis. I was a kick-ass tennis player. But today, right now, if I went and played tennis against my buddy, he'd beat the living shit out of me. Because his hobby level as a tennis player is way better, because I never achieved how high he was. And if we went out and played golf, I'd beat the shit out of him. It's much more black and white with those kind of tangible things. This profession, hobby versus money, is not remotely close to the same, because so much of our profession is predicated, which is why I did the whole conversation on goals. It's so much predicated on other people. This is what makes this a challenge. And none of us who take this seriously, and especially the folks who choose to come to these conversations, I know this matters to you guys. And anybody who watches this is going to matter to you. So how do you discern? No one wants to have somebody, again, my buddy and I last night used the word offended. If you talk about someone's profession, no one wants to be offended or feel the need to have to defend. Hey man, I'm a serious actor, brah. Like, I get it. I'm all fired up this morning. Like, I get it. It's Friday. Sun's out and shit. I totally get it. What's up? My man Jay's in the house. What up, Jay Money? That's my stepson's on the live. That's disturbing. I can still cuss. It's okay. He's old enough. We still have difficulty trying to discern in this profession what is so glaringly obvious for the person who is a professional musician versus the person who's a hack guitarist, that would be me, the person who's a professional ball player versus the person who just made it to college and went on to something else. That's easy. But as an actor, man, because so much of our profession Our job is the fact that 95% of the time, no matter how good you are, you aren't going to get hired. It makes it much harder to discern, am I looking at this as an actor as a hobby, or am I actually paying attention to this as a profession? Now, obviously, when you've done it as long as I have, and many people have, many people have, and some of the people here included with regards to your credit list, it's not as hard. I don't have to defend myself. I have a career, I have a long career, I have a pension with my union. However, I still have never achieved as high as I would like to. That makes that still a goal for me. But when you discuss hobby versus money, a lot of that has to, for me, go just beyond the standard steps that we do in other professions. I went to school, I got a degree. Because of that degree, I was able to get a job doing blah, and then I just went and did that job for the next 35 or 40 years. I had a great life, I retired, raised kids, etc. Totally get it. This is my point with regards to job security and the fact that we all know this is not a time in, money out business. Years ago, people who know me know that I did a decent amount of daytime television. I was on one particular show for 9 months. And I met and got to know one of the lead people on that particular daytime soap opera. And I got into a conversation with him one day. And he was, I would say, a very average actor at best, which is also what kind of you get in the routine of any profession. And daytime television is a grind, man. You got to hammer out pages and pages 4 or 5 days a week. It's a hard job. But it doesn't necessarily demand the highest skill set because of the nature of the assembly line of doing that job. But he said to me, and it was a very important statement that he made to me. He said, you know, Kevin, he said, I wanted years ago when I became an actor, I simply wanted to make a living and support my family. And I got a job that allowed me to do that. And I have simply made sure that I didn't screw that up. Yay for him. He wasn't trying to change the world. He wasn't trying to claim that he was a serious actor. He fell into a job based on his demeanor, his appearance, whatever. It fit. Daytime television loved him and he has made a great living for 35 years. Now, that's easy to see. Well, that's money. That's not a hobby. Okay, I agree with you. But I personally believe there are plenty of people who've worked just as hard as him, who are probably even more talented than him, who can't make any money. And so the reality is, hey, Olya, the reality is, how do we discern in this profession where your mind is at? Because this is a question to you. I'm presenting this to you. And in the spirit of my man from college, my buddy I was talking to last night, I promise I'm going to finish with the things I kind of tend to philosophically say, but I'm going to put them to you because this is what's challenging about this profession. I'm going to say the opposite first. This is common for me. I always go around my elbow to eventually get to my thumb to make a point. Guys, when I speak, that's what I do. That's just how I roll. But there's always something in there that you want to grab a hold of. Okay? But I used to say all the time, and this is very common, and now I'm speaking about Los Angeles, and I wish my buddy Andreas or my pals in Australia were here because it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Any big city, I used to say to people all the time that being a professional in Los Angeles does not just mean that you've been here with a headshot breathing, because that's 150,000 people within 35 miles of where I'm sitting. Yes, it does allow you to call yourself an actor if you go to class and get a picture made. Yes, you're allowed to call yourself an actor if you have a picture and you put it up on one of the 3 main casting portals here in the United States and or eTalenta or someplace else out in the world. That's fine too. I understand that. But here's the thing, because there's always the thing. That would be for me hobby versus money. Because just having done a couple of steps, I paid someone for class that I go to sometimes. I paid someone to take my picture. And I went and started an IMDb account. And I did a couple of buddies' short films. And I'm just waiting to see if my representative or who's going to discover, waiting for Godot to play. That's a hobby mentality to me, because we can't make, and I don't ever want you to judge yourself by how much money you made in a 6-month or a calendar year. I want you to judge you by how much time you're putting into this on a weekly basis. Because it's not a black and white profession. It's not a tangible time and money out profession, but it is an attention to anything in the world is the same. If you're not paying attention to this, if it's not important enough to you, if you're not driven to do this, by paying attention and giving dedicated time, which I just covered earlier this week, dedicated biz time, to actually trying to build up the old corporate hashtag stepladder, blah, of putting yourself out, trying to get job interviews, we call auditions, and consistently book work and build that resume. Build what I call building your spider web, the people who know you, that you're at the center of. If you're not busy doing that, if that's not on your mind all the time to do, man, when I moved to California, the first 2.5 years I lived here was all stand-up comedy and all improv. I got it. But as soon as I made the turn, as soon as I turned towards film and television, when I realized, oh shit, this is actually what I want to do. Man, I was every day, all day long. Every day, all day long. By the way, still working at a restaurant, selling coupons door to door. I did phone sales at 6 o'clock in the morning in a boiler room. No shit, I worked at a law firm, for the love of God. But those were just the things, as I was chatting with my friend last night, I don't like the phrase side hustle personally, but it doesn't matter. Part-time job, I don't care what you call it. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever that was, maybe you had a trust fund, I don't care. But every single day that I got up, it was, what can I do today? This is not about the pandemic. That's going to be over. This is about hobby versus money in our profession is far more about what you're doing and how you think about doing it than it is about necessarily making money early on. It's very different than sports, music. It's very different than other tangible professions. And likely since you've been in one in your life making money, you know this difference. So I leave you in the next 6 minutes with these 4 things, which I do all the time. I'm always throwing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things in every single live. Sometimes they're mixed in throughout when I talk. Sometimes I'll front end them. Sometimes I'll back end them. You guys will get used to me talking if you don't know me really well. For those people who remember, like Alana, who's here, and people who are members of the Actors Network, shit, they heard me speak hundreds of times, so they've seen this movie. But here's the 4 things about hobby versus money. And while I'm always talking about the business, I want you to take note of the first one that I say. And the first one that I'm going to tell you is your ass better be good. Now, I use the word good. The reason I do is because we never know. My buddy and I last night even chatted about this. It's like, who decides who hires you and who gets to determine or deem whether or not you're good? Guys, this is art. Don't get caught up in that. You'll know you're good when people start going, hey man, you're really good. You'll know you're good when you get callbacks consistently, whether you get hired or not. But item number 1 of hobby versus money, again, it doesn't have anything to do with a tangible result, y'all, because it can't. It has to do with, are you good? Number 1, have you paid enough attention? Do you continue to pay enough attention to the fact that when the chips are down, in an audition room, on blue jeans for commercial auditions these days digitally, or on some sort of self-digitized audition, self-tape thingy we have to do, I don't care what the delivery mechanism is. I don't care what the environment is, because we're all dealing with that. That's one of the coolest things about, we joke about golf when it's windy. It's like, man, it's windy. I'm like, yeah, you're at a tournament, but we're all playing the same golf course. It's windy for everybody. We all have to do self-tape. Y'all, this isn't just one person doing this. We all have to deal with this bullshit. So number 1, you got to be good. Number 2, you have to regularly and consistently, intelligently, I put a lot of qualifiers and disclaimers on the shit that I say, intelligently submit yourself regularly. You cannot just count on your representative. I have a representative. That doesn't change the fact I don't try and take all the people that I know and all the connections that I have and try and create my own auditions and jobs. I do. I'm doing a scripted podcast, season 2 of a scripted podcast that's from connections that I had. You still pay your representative commission, but I don't stop trying to get stuff myself. That's part of my job. But part of being hobby v money is that you don't let up. You don't take weeks off from intelligently submitting yourself so that your product, your pencil, this is why I have the pencil man. This is us. You don't stop doing that. If you do, then you have a hobby mentality, which is fine. Just understand that hobby mentality usually renders hobby results, like it being playing golf or playing tennis. That's all. Number 3, and I've said it along the way, is you got to be constantly building your spider web. Just think about a spider web. And I hate spiders, by the way. Love snakes, hate spiders. You're the center. How strongly you build that web, how intricate it is how that's the metaphor for catching flies, right? The more people you know in this profession, the more interconnected this profession is, and the more people can know you, can consider you. So the third thing that I notice about people in terms of whether or not I believe they're looking at this profession as a hobby or as a profession they're trying to build a career around is how much are they trying to build their spider web of knowing people and that those people know who they are and that they exist on the other side of the desk. Casting, agents, managers, producers, directors, writers, executives, etc. How much time are you spending doing that? That's a clear distinction about whether or not you view this as a hobby or not. And number 4, hang on a second, dramatic pause. I got to get some coffee for number 4 because we're going to go to number 4. There we go. And okay, here it comes. Now I'm going to say this in this way, but just know that if you ever choose to do this, it's not as an actor. It's just a choice about pursuing. I'm always very clear, you guys. You don't have to pursue this profession for money. No one told you had to do that. You can go get job security. You can go live your life. You do not have to do this. You can be an actor and just not do it for money. But number 4 on my list about hobby versus money, don't quit. Don't stop. That's the nature. I mean, how many stories do we need to write about things that are far more tangible than being an actor? Don't quit. Don't stop. Even I did Lost with Josh Holloway way back in the day, right? And he's from Georgia and I'm from Tennessee. We get to chatting. He was quitting. He met a gal. They were going to get married. She lived in another country. He was leaving. He didn't even want to go to the audition. He'd been a model for a long time, done some stuff. He didn't even want to go to the audition for Lost. Now he's an international star. So when it comes to all these things that you see me talk about, don't quit. That's hobby versus money. It has to be because it's so intangible. It's so subjective. It's such a difficult business versus the fun and the joy of the craft and the sandbox and playtime that we all love because I'm a goofball. Number 4, don't quit. And with that, you guys, that's the only place you can hang on to the difference of hobby versus money. You cannot, I beg you not, to get hung up on, especially in today's gig economy and especially in what we're dealing with in life. Don't get hung up on too much how much money you made as an actor. We all go through good and bad years. But how important is it to you every single week to do the things that you know intrinsically, here come my 3 favorite words again, increase the likelihood of you moving your career forward? And you cannot do that if you stop. Okay? You guys are beautiful people. Please send everybody, hey Cassandra, you bet. You guys, please send everybody here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday next week. Get your people. Get them to the YouTube channel. I just put up a whole bunch of stuff from all these industry interviews that I did over the years. Incredibly valuable material from other folks. Go to the Kevin E on YouTube. You guys have an awesome freaking weekend. Have a great audition, Sheeta. Great to see you, Double D. Glad you guys came in. Everybody, have a great weekend. I'll see y'all on Monday. Be safe and healthy. Whee! Bye.